In this video, we're going to go over everything you need to know about using layers and the timeline inside Descript. So first off, why would you want to add layers to your video inside Descript? If you want to add text, a B-roll clip, and a GIF on top of your video, those are all layers. If you want to change the background of your video, that is a layer, but we're not going to cover that in this video. We got a whole other video about that, so go check it out. Now, before we jump into how to use layers, if you're not familiar with Descript, go check out and watch our 15-minute overview video to get up to speed on how to use Descript, because this is a bit of an advanced tutorial. All right, let's jump into it. All right, here I've got a raw video clip of just me talking to camera for another video, and it's transcribed and it's inside a composition. Let's just assume that we were jumping ahead. The video is already edited as far as like I cut out the parts that I don't want, but now I might want to showcase some other visuals. So I'm gonna add a couple of scenes here, which are just edit markers to split the clip. We got another video explaining scenes in a bit more detail. So check that out if you're not familiar with how scenes work in Descript, but they're really handy for making quick edits. And so to use layers, we're going to have to jump into the timeline to get a better visual sense of how they work. So I'm just going to drag this up a bit so we get a little bit more space so we can see how things are going. And so let's say we want to add a text title here. So if we click on the text box up here, we have options for different text formats: bigger text, title, subtitle, just regular text, and then captions. Captions behaves differently. And also we have video on that. Captions will read the text that you have here and display it as captions. So check out our video if you want to use captions. But for this case, we're going to use just the title. And you can see because I'm inside the scene here, it added this layer above the video. And we can see the layer of the text illustrated here. And so let's just say I'm going to call this, this video is about PostLab, another video editing tool, not an actual video editor, but a tool. And so we'll just call it PostLab. Here in the layer, we've got that layer, and then we've got our video layer on the bottom. And so layers work by, if you imagine that you're looking downward from the top, like if this was the top and we're looking down at our layers, whatever we see up top here is what's going to show up on the top layer, and whatever is beneath this is going to be on the bottom. So to illustrate that a little bit better, let me just add some shapes because that helps make things clearer. And let's just change this to a more obvious color like a red. And so you see, I just added this layer, and so it added it to the top layer. And we can see here, we've got the rectangle and we've got our text, and our text is blocked because our rectangle is on top of it. And so if we wanted to shift the order of layers, one way is I'm just clicking outside to make sure that nothing's selected. And then we can see here in my scene, the information panel on the side shows up. And if you're not seeing this, click this box, the properties box. And so here we can also see another representation of the layer order. So we've got rectangle, text, and then script, which is our video or the thing that it's pulling text from. And so we could either drag here if you want to shift the order. And so that's one easy way. And another way is if you're a fan of shortcuts or keyboard shortcuts, you can right click on any object or any layer and then go to layer order and then say bring to front, bring forward, send back, send backwards. And you can use keyboard shortcuts with the bracket or the shift bracket. And so front means the top. So right now it is at the front. And if we want to send it all the way to the back or just send it one layer backwards, we can send it all the way to the back right now because we only have two layers. It's not really going to matter much. But actually this is interesting though, because you will notice, and this is where things can get a little confusing, that the text has actually disappeared. Even though we said send it to back, which we would think means send it to the back of our active layers because this video is our background. But the video, AKA the script, is actually a layer as well. The timeline can actually get a little bit confusing because whatever is your script will always be on the bottom in the timeline, no matter what. And we can see here that the text is above that, and that the rectangle is above that, but the order, that's not actually the actual order they're representing. So for the most accurate order, check the properties panel, and we can see here the layers is the rectangle, the script, which is our video, which is this, which is not accurately represented here in the timeline, and then our text, which is literally in the back. We can't see it. So if we wanted to fix that, we could either drag this layer again, or if we right click or use the keyboard shortcut, we can say send to back, and now our text is restored because now our text is in the middle layer. So yeah, if you have a little more confusion with that, let me know in the comments. But that's one thing, if you're looking here, that you might get confused if you see that a layer is here, but you're like, I can't see the layer. It could be because it is technically behind the script layer, and that just won't accurately reflect that here, just the way Descript displays things. Maybe they'll adjust that in the future, but for the most accurate order of how your layers work, just check the layers box and drag and drop to adjust your layer. And so with layers, we just inserted text, we inserted objects, but you could also insert all types of other things, which could be other video clips. So if we had some video files in our project that we imported, if we click add new layer, that's just going to add it on top of our existing video that we have here, our script. It is not going to replace our script. So if you see a video clip that has someone speaking and it's already been transcribed, the default button will say insert into script, and that will insert this into the text, and it would push all of these other video clips down. If you wanted to just add it as a layer, you can click this drop down and have the option to add it as a layer, and that would add the video on top as a second video clip. So let me give you an example. So if I say add as layer, it changes the button and then it inserts it here, and it doesn't replace our video script. Now you would need to mute this, which is a separate thing, if you wanted to just use this as B-roll, for example, but that's just to clarify what inserting as a layer versus inserting as a script means. Okay, so we've inserted our clips. You can insert video clips, like I said. You could also go to Descript's stock library, which has additional videos that you can use, background videos, GIFs, images, all types of stuff, audio. And so audio would still technically be a layer, even though you hear it. So it doesn't really matter what order it is, but the same idea applies. So that's an overview of the layers. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, if that's so confusing, why would I want to bother with the timeline? Good question. So you want to use a timeline if you need to get specific with very specific timing of when things show up and when they go away. So let's jump into another project that has a better example of how you can get a little complex with layers. All right, so this is a video that is about different outdoor backpacking gear. And we can see here in our timeline now, we've got a lot of layers going on because we're doing a lot of different things. And so while we do use scenes to mark off the points of where the clips start, we use a lot of layers and basically kind of animate them in. So here, let's just play this out, and then I'll break down what you're watching.
Stove to bring along? Today, we're diving deep into the top 5 backpacking stoves, breaking down their pros, cons, and everything in between. From the ultra lightweight models.
Okay, so to break down the layers, we've got our voiceover here, which is the script, which is our audio file. We've got this green layer, which anything green is going to be audio only, so that's our background music. And then we've got these clips. So this is a video clip. This is a video clip. These are just stock footage clips that we see, and so these are just a layer on top of the script. And then here we have where things start getting interesting. So we've got this background layer here. That's just our background image that we're using. If I were to drag it, you just see nothing. We're not mentioning the specific names now, but just to kind of space it out, every about a second or so, a new product shows up. And so this is a product image. This is a product image. These are just transparent pings, PNGs, however you want to call them. New image shows up, new image shows up. And now you can see the layer order is a little scattered, but because none of these layers are actually on top of each other, it doesn't really matter what the order is. We just want to make sure they appear when we want them to, and that they also stay on screen. So that's where you need to use a timeline. You can't really do this any way else. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say by default, we add a new image. So let's just say we want to like add a stove image. Go to our files. All right, so let's add a Jetboil image. All right, so let's say we wanted to add this image. Okay, so by default, it fills up this space that we have marked for our scene. And then, but let's say we have a logo or we have an image or something that we wanted to display longer. So let's say we also add this other image to it. And now by default, it's also going to fill up the scene that we have. But let's say we want this image like we have here, where we have each image showing, but we have them all holding for the same until the end of the entire scene. So what we got to do is then come over here, hover over to the end of the clip. We see our cursor changes into a handle dragger. And then we want to drag this out as long as we need to display it. And it's a little choppy right now just because my computer is running Descript and recording this video. But you can see it basically wherever you stop with your cursor is where the clip stops. If you wanted to snap to the scene, If you want to snap to the scene, if you kind of hover near the scene, it'll sort of snap to it, to wherever your next scene is, marker is for the scene. And so if you want to extend or you want to display a clip, so like same thing we have here, we've got our various products. Ignore the, I'm just going to delete this. You can see this example. We've got, this is one scene, but we adjusted the beginning so that just every couple of seconds or not even
just a little tease. Here are
we've got these images displaying. It just staggers them a bit, so it makes it a little bit more interesting. And so to do that, same idea, you would hover and then just drag the beginning of your clip to wherever you want it to start. So when you need to manually get in there and really fine tune where you want a layer to start appearing and where you want it to stop appearing, that's when you have to get into the timeline and start just dragging out the clips and really fine tuning with where you want those clips to be. All right, so one more thing before we wrap this up. You also might have noticed if I hover here, these little dots appear. And so you could either just click on them and this little option will pop up and you can manually adjust the fade or basically a transition. Or you could also, by default, it'll be a fade if you just hover here and click and drag out. It will add a fade in. So if you want to fade in your clip,
those that challenge even the wind.
That little fade. So if you want to fade in your clip or fade out a clip, you can just drag the handles there. And same if these clips do have audio attached to them, you can adjust the audio fade as well. And then lastly, too, we sort of covered the order that you can see your layers lining up here. Here we can see all of our layers. But if you need to adjust an individual property of a clip, you can just click on the clip and you'll be able to adjust the individual property. If you needed to adjust the color or something or the opacity, you can just click on the clip and adjust its individual attributes. Or if you hover here, if it's a little, maybe you have something buried and it's too hard to actually click on, you can just find it in the layers here, click on it, and that will select it so you can adjust the settings. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you now know how to use layers in the timeline a little bit better. If you have any other questions, be sure to leave them below in the comments. And if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. Helps the algorithm and stuff. And if you want more videos like this, also hit subscribe. Be sure to check out our whole playlist of all sorts of Descript tutorials to get yourself up to speed. And we also have a full Descript course, so check that out in the link below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.